back. This is Dr. Keith Fairclough, your relationship and emotional intelligence specialist. And we are back for another live stream. And this time we're going to finish up when we talked about structure and a relationship, the importance of it. I told you I was going to be back to finish this one up. This is probably going to be a little bit longer just because there's so much to go into. Also, I did not forget about how to eliminate resentment. That's the next one that's coming up, but it's got to build that out. Just make sure I'm hitting all the points for you guys. And then I'll be back with that one to talk about the different aspects of eliminating resentment. But today we're going to be talking about the structure required in a relationship so you can increase your chances of it being healthy, right? And I'll be honest, I wouldn't even say increase. I know we're not supposed to talk in absolutes and things of that nature, right? I understand we're not supposed to talk like that. However, I cannot imagine in my mind a relationship failing with these structures in place. I just don't see where they could fail. I don't see where there could be a single point of failure with this structure in place. And I'm not even trying to sell you on anything like that. I'm just saying that when we have structure in relationships, when we're doing the things that work and we're doing them consistently and we're doing them in tandem and we're doing them as a team, I just don't see how we can fail. I just don't see it. But in any case, let's get into it, right? Let's not, waste any time and let's go into it, right? So I do have my notepad here that's kind of leaned up against my screen because I want to make sure that I'm hitting all the points for you guys. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to leave anything out. And so let's hop into it. So the first structure that needs to be in a relationship is we got to have a communication structure, right? We got to be able to have a way that we both can agree on how we communicate. I know I've worked with couples before and I've heard it come up like we have different communication styles, right? So I want to actually ask ourselves this question. If we're in a relationship with someone who speaks a different language than us, do we just say, well, we speak different languages, right? They speak Mandarin Chinese and I speak Swahili, No, in order for us to have a relationship, we have to be on the same page, right? We have to make sure we're speaking the same language. We're saying the same things. We understand where each other is coming from. We have a system where we can actually ask questions, get clarity, because again, we have different backgrounds. We have different experiences. So certain things we might say, and we may not mean it how someone else took it. And so we got to have a structure and a system that if something like that happens, we have issues or problems, we can plug into this system that we both agree to, that we both learn, we both practice, so that after we put all our stuff in, what comes out makes sense. What comes out is understanding. What comes out is validation and understanding and making sure we're heard and validated and understood. That's what comes out when we put it into that structure and that system, right? Because if you think about any structure, what does it do? It keeps things in place, right? It gives you an area in a room in order to move and operate. So we got to have a communication structure in place. Very, very, very important, right? So first, let's talk about what happens if there's no system in place, right? So if there's no system in place, then every disagreement that comes up is going to turn into a fight. Or you're going to keep getting into the same fights over and over and over and over again. Like if there's no structure, right? Because again, there's nothing to put in. So if I say something is taken the wrong way, the whole thing is going left. Or she says something is taken the wrong way, the whole thing is going right. Like it's gonna fail, right? There's gonna be always gonna be some type of issue or problem because we're gonna be talking how we want to talk. We're gonna be using you statements. We're gonna be listening to respond. We're gonna be doing all those things. We're getting defensive. We're going to be doing all that, and that's not going to be healthy. That's not going to lead to connection. That's not going to lead to resolution. It's just going to lead to more and more fights and more distance before it's all said and done, and we don't want nothing to do with each other. All right. So another one, the conversations, right? They become more emotional and not not productive, right? So what happens is emotions get kicked in. We don't have any system to how to deal with it, nothing to regulate our bodies. We haven't been doing anything like that. We don't know how to co-regulate. We don't know how to do anything like that. So if someone says something that makes you feel some kind of way, you get triggered, then what happens? Oh, whole thing goes left, right? You're trying to share what you're thinking and what you're feeling. You're trying to express, what a need is. You're trying to express something that hurts you. And all of a sudden, now the other person's triggered and now it gets emotional. Or you're trying to express it and you're emotional and you start coming at the person and attacking them. And then you want them to help you resolve it, to help, validate you, but you just attack them. So it's not going to be a productive conversation because there's so much anger, there's so much emotion, there's so many issues or problems and things like that. So that's what happens. There's no structure. There's no structure for how do we manage our emotions in that moment, how do we process it, how do we regulate our bodies, right? How do we bring information that might be uncomfortable to the other person respectfully so they can receive it? Without structure, this is how it goes. And anyone who's been in a relationship for any extended period of time without structure, you've seen this happen time and time again. Some of you even started doing work on yourself and came and did it the right way, and you still went left, right? That's because we got to have that structure. And where I do tell people, and I'll just kind of take a little, deviate for a little bit, right? Side note, can your relationship improve with one person changing it and doing a lot of the work? And changing how they operate and changing how they move and how they talk and how they listen and all that and regulate. Absolutely. Absolutely. A relationship can change and you can get better. But of course, it also depends on the deficiencies in the other person, right? Because if the other person doesn't have that many deficiencies and they're able to kind of see some things and take accountability and change, then you'll see growth. It won't be as fast as both people are doing the work and have the structure, but you will see growth. But if the other person has a lot of deficiencies, if the other person has like unprocessed trauma, if the other person can't take responsibility, if the other person can't talk it, then it will improve to a point, but there's a ceiling you cannot get past if they're always reactive no matter what, right? So I just want to put that caveat out there, okay? So and so one other thing, I just want to make sure I get this right. So people listen to no, I'm sorry, they argue to win. Like the whole purpose of the communication. There's no system. The purpose is to win. I'm trying to win the argument. I'm trying to, prove my point. I'm trying to prove how my subjective experience is objectively correct, right? Like that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to get you to agree with me because the only way this works, I don't care about validation. I care about you agreeing with me. And so without a structure or a system in place, it's never going to go right because it's going to feel like someone's being forced to abandon themselves and forced to abandon their perspective, and it's just, and they're not going to be heard and they're not going to be understood. And so without a structure, without a system, without anything to help us navigate these conversations, we just keep falling apart over and over. We keep arguing, we keep attacking, we keep hurting, we keep injury after injury, and then resentment builds up, and then we start viewing our partner in a certain way where we wouldn't normally view them. We start viewing them as enemies, we start viewing them as monsters, we start viewing them as narcissists, or you name it. We start thinking of all types of stuff. And it's like, dang, all because we don't have a system for how to communicate, right? So that's what it looks like, and then that's just a half, right? There's probably a whole lot of other issues that come up when there's no system, but these are some of the bigger ones, the more general ones that I tend to see in a couple sessions and things like that when there's no system, right? So so some questions, right? Moving on, right? Some questions to ask yourself, right? Some questions to ask yourself. Actually, no, wait. Before I do that, I'm actually going to flip it. I was going to do questions to ask ourselves, and then I was going to do examples. Actually, what I'm going to give you some examples of some structures that you could follow, and then I'm going to give you some questions that you could ask yourself regarding what your relationship is like, and what the structure should look like, right? So here's some examples of some structures, right? So first and foremost, you can have, yeah, a way of sharing information, right? Using, I statements instead of you statements. That could be a structure. Like, hey, if we're going to talk, we got to make sure we use I statements, sharing our perspective only. Because if we use statements, we know they make people defensive. We know it comes off as criticism or contempt. So that's one structure we're going to use. And like for me and my couples, that I work with, I have my system. It's called the SIR system, where you state the situation, the emotion, the reason, and the request, right? So that's my system for I statements. Yeah. But Again, whatever works best for you, but you got to have that system, right? That's one, right? I have the yes model, right? How to listen, yield the floor, empathize and validate, summarize and confirm, right? So when we're in conversation, one person's a speaker, one person the listener. Listener is going to be using the yes model. The speaker is going to be using the SIR model. So now we have a system for how to communicate and share information, right? I'm already talked about the SIR model. Have an agreement. Have an agreement on how we are going to resolve situations, right? Like at the end, after we understand one another, what does a problem solving look like at the other side of that? How do we resolve issues after that? Okay. And so make sure I just get this last one. Oh, the repair process, right? What does it look like to repair in your relationship? What does it look what kind of system do you have for that? If we make a mistake, if we misstep, can we just say, you know what? My apologies, my bad. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't know it was going to hurt you. My apologies. Like, what does that repair system look like for you guys? Could be something as simple as that. Could be something very as simple as something like that. But what does repair look like? Because just because a conversation might go a little left doesn't mean you can't bring it back if you repair soon enough. We can open up and share in that moment. Hey, what you just said hurt me. I'm trying to speak, but I don't feel heard right now because I keep being interrupted. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Mouth got the best of me. I'm done. Let me stop. Please go ahead. Right. And so that's like what repair looks like. That's what, stating what's going on in the moment looks like. So we can keep the conversation on track and on topic. Right. So here are some of the questions that you could ask yourself, and you and your partner, your husband, your wife, you guys can ask yourself, regarding this system. And again, let me just read from here. Right. So how do we bring up, right? How do we bring up concerns, right? What does that look like? Ask yourself this question right now about your relationship, right? Because maybe there's some parts of the systems that you have in place, but maybe they're not all the way implemented, right? So what you can do with these questions is just kind of ask each other, hey, what does this look like? How do we bring up concerns, right? How do we bring up concerns? Okay. And then not just how do we do it, but ask yourself individually, because all these questions, it's not just about we, because sometimes when we talk about we end up talking about you. Oh, this is what you do, but focus on, okay, what does it look like for us, but how does it look like for me? How do I bring up concerns? How do I bring up questions? Okay. So the next one, how do I listen, or how do we listen? What does that look like? Are we actually listening to understand, or are we listening to respond? Do I find myself interrupting? Do I find myself trying to correct every detail? Do I find what am I doing? Right? Do I find myself yelling or screaming? Or do I find myself nice and sitting back and quiet and receiving, giving head nods, empathizing when I see a moment to empathize and validating? Then it can, like, what does that look like? Ask your guys selves these questions, right? How do we repair after conflict? Right? Are we giving each other hugs and kisses, after maybe a difficult conversation, in the middle of conflict? Are we holding each other's hand? Because again, conflict doesn't mean we're automatically going to war. It just means we're not aligned, right? So what does that look like? And I'll tell you this, the more loving you guys can connect and be, even during a difficult conversation, close proximity, low tone, things like that, the easier it is to repair, and the easier it is to build a connection even more so afterwards. All right. So ask yourself those questions. How do I repair? How do we repair after conflict? How do I repair after conflict? Maybe some people need a little bit of time to, calm down. Or maybe some people need time to step away, whatever the case may be. But ask yourself, okay, how do we repair? How do I repair? And what works? And also ask yourself the question, and what works for me? What helps to bring me back into the fold? What helps to bring me back? Maybe it's a slight touch. Maybe it's a soft, kind word. Maybe it's a plate of food or a bowl of cereal, something like that. I don't know. But ask yourself that question. You guys, again, your husbands and wives, you guys can ask yourselves these questions, boyfriends and girlfriends, things like that, right? All right. All right. And so in this last one, what happens when one of us becomes overwhelmed? What happens when, the emotions start to get what the Gottman's called flooding, right? And that's when the fight or flight response kicks in. Your heart rate goes over to 100 up to 100 beats a minute or more. Like, what happens at that time? Like, what do we do? And I'm not going to leave you in a cliffhanger. You could ask your guys self that question, but you guys got to make sure if you get to that point, you need to call a timeout. You need to leave. because staying in a conversation where you're escalated, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well at all. No matter how logical you're going to try to be or anything along those lines, it's not going to go well. Right. So you got to leave those situations, come back no sooner than 20 minutes. Give your body a chance to relax and calm down. Go distract yourself. Don't go think about the problem. Don't go think about what he said or what she said. Go relax, calm yourself down, take some deep breaths, go get a bath, go distract yourself, play a game, read a magazine, go for a run, hit the weights, take a shower, whatever. Do something to get your mind off of that so you could de-escalate your body and de-escalate all the hormones and the neurotransmitter, all that stuff, de-escalate all of that so that you guys can come back and have a conversation about what just happened, right? So that is the first structure that you want to make sure you have in place. It is so important because that communication structure, then again, I always tell people, I think communication is the most important thing in a relationship, but it's not the only thing, right? And the way I liken it's like communication is like the vehicle, right? The vehicle to get to wherever we're trying to go. And all the other things, intimacy, money, parenting, in-laws, jobs, careers, all that other stuff. Those are all different destinations. We cannot get to those destinations without the proper communication. But if we don't know where we're going, if we don't know what structures to set up, then even if we know how to communicate well, we may not be able to get to these other places, right? So yes, communication is extremely important. Do not get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. But once we get that foundation set, it's time to build. It's time to build with our finances. It's time to build with our family. It's time to build with our spirituality. It's time to build with our in-laws and extend the community. It's time to build with our careers. It's time to build on top of that. Build our intimacy. So then again, communication is important. Always say that communication is extremely important. You can't get anywhere else without it. But once we got it, we still got more work to do. All right. So the next structure, though, let's shift gears. The next structure is a financial structure. All right. I know people always say, oh, yeah, it's the main reason for divorce. It's the main reason for divorce. It's the main reason for divorce, which is crazy because broke people get divorced. Middle class gets divorced. Rich people get divorced. People in every social economic strata get divorced. People that have money get divorced. People that don't have money get divorced. So it's probably not money is the reason why people are getting divorced. I mean, think about it. Money is just ones and zeros. That's all it is. That's all it is. In a system somewhere, it's just ones and zeros. It's just some paper. It's not the money that's the problem. It's how we don't know how to communicate about the money. I don't have a structure or system in place for the money. So now we're having issues and problems and things of that nature that shouldn't have to be there if we had structure. So speaking of structure, what does it look like when we don't have structure in our finances? Right? What it looks like is there's overspending. We're blowing money fast. I've heard stories of people who make $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. And it sounds crazy, but if you don't have a structure, does it really sound crazy? Think about it. If someone's broke and we're blowing money fast on things that we don't need, right? And let's just say you don't make a lot of. Let's say you make $50,000 a year and you're struggling, right? Maybe you're trying to support a family, whatever the case may be. Right. But you're buying a lot of dumb stuff. You're buying red bottoms and Gucci belts and all these stuff like that and $10,000 purses and all these things like, expensive computer. You're buying like really, really expensive stuff. You put it on credit and then your credit's going bad and all these things like that. Now, all you have to do to imagine how someone who's making $500,000 a year or $1 million a year, how they're living paycheck to paycheck. Take that same mindset, put it in in a person making that level of money, and then just jump the price up of all the stuff that you buy and how you don't track and how you overspend. Just jump all that up, and you're in the same exact boat. And that's how people can get to higher levels of income and still be living paycheck to paycheck, no matter how high they climb. Right? They don't have a system, right? And there's more to it than that. There's internal stuff or whatever. We're not here to talk about that today. What we're here to talk about is there's no system. because that's a big issue as well. Because if there's a system, if there's a plan, then that overspending can't happen, right? So without a system, you know what else happens? You got hidden purchases. He's buying something he shouldn't be buying. She's buying something she shouldn't be buying. We got credit cards that we don't know about, and you're running it up, just sliding that plastic all over the place. Or I guess maybe you don't slide anymore. Now it's tap and insert and all that stuff like that. But we're just spending money all over the place. And you're like, man, where's all the money going? Well, it's going to interest to pay off these banks, but you didn't know that because we don't have a system. We have no system to track money, no system to track spending, nothing like that, right? And so, what else do we have? We increase our debts and we increase our liabilities. We keep buying things that depreciate in value. We keep blowing money fast. We keep increasing our debt, and then want. Oh my gosh, what was us? What was us? What was us? And of course, I don't mean to make fun of anybody or anything like that, but we have to be real with ourselves sometimes. Honestly, we have to look at ourselves and be like, I'm the one that's doing this to myself. It's not God. It's not the devil. It's not the white man. It's not the black man. It's not anybody anywhere else. It's not the evil financial system. It's me. I'm doing it because I don't have a system. And so just keeping that in mind. So this is what happens when you don't have a system, right? Again, no shared goals. No shared goals, right? Think about that. Because you don't have a system, you don't have no goals on what you guys are trying to achieve. No idea of where we're trying to go, what we want to get to. Husband and wife married, and all this time, they got nothing to show for it 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line. What happened? No system. The different priorities. And if you have different priorities and you're going off in different places, I mean, think of it like this. If you're on a team, I like to use sports analogies. So if you're on a football team, right? Football season's coming up soon too. But if you're on a football team and everybody on the football team is doing their own thing, the wide receivers are running the routes that nobody knows about. The running back is running a route nobody knows about. The offensive line's blocking whoever they want to block, wherever they want to block. Tight ends are doing their own thing. Quarterback's doing his own thing. How successful is that team going to be? And you know the answer to that. They're not going to be successful at all. That quarterback's going to be sacked. Someone's going to be hurt. They're not going to make any progress. They're going to be losing yards. That's the same thing that happens when we are married and we are in together and we don't have a structure and a system for our finances. It's the same thing. We lose. And I always tell my couples, if you don't have a plan for your money, someone else will, and they will execute it and they will get it. So just keep that in mind. Right? So now, what are some examples of systems that we could put in place? Some examples of systems we can put in place are the following. You could have a budget. You should have a budget. We should all have a budget. You should be able to track and know where your money is going at all times. And I know back in the day, it used to be like, you have to write everything down and it was complex and complicated and all that stuff like that. I'm going to tell you right now that there is technology out there that you could just upload your different accounts and it will put everything in there. The most you might have to do is categorize a few things and it will track your stuff from month to month to month. It'll let you know how much money comes in, how much goes out. It'll tell you how much money you spent on food. It'll tell you how much money you spent on groceries, on gas, on subscriptions, on bills and student. It will tell you everything you need to know. So in 2026, with all this technology, there's absolutely no reason to not have a budget of some kind. There's no reason not to have a budget, because the fact of the matter is, if you can't track your money is going to go. There's going to be leaks. You got to track your money. So a part of having a system is making sure you have a budget, because a budget is a structure for your finances. It says where everything is supposed to go. This is how much we have for everything, right? So make sure you have a budget. Another example of a structure you could have in your relationship is have monthly meetings about money, where you sit down, you talk about the finances, you review your goals, you see, hey, are we getting closer to our goal? Do we need to make an adjustment? And that's the beautiful part about this. You can make adjustments to them. You don't have to be locked in, but meet about it, talk about it. Keep everything on the table as far as like making sure everything is visible and transparent. We know where all the money's going and everything along those lines. Set up, and I'm also say this, I'm not a financial advisor. So I'm not giving you financial advice and telling you what to trade and all that stuff like that. These are just generic systems that you guys can put into place so you could have the structure you need for your finances and your relationship, so you could avoid a lot of heartache, a lot of issues, a lot of problems, a lot of arguments, right? So that monthly meeting, setting up the budget, making sure you have goals. You should have saving goals. You should have emergency fund goals. You should have investment goals. You should have all of those in place. You should have, and this is just my opinion, right? This is just my opinion. This next one is, I think every couple should have some type of goal to generate passive income so that all their expenses for the month are paid. I think that should be a goal that every couple should have, because you never know what could happen. And you don't want to rely on other systems or other people, insurances and things like that. You want to make sure you control your financial destiny. So that should be a goal. How can we, from the get-go, how can we create a system where we generate passive income that covers our expenses for the month? And there's a beautiful part about having a budget. You could easily see what your expenses are for the month, right? As far as the emergency fund side, no, you want to make sure you have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved up in there in case worst case scenario. Some people say, you want to have, up to a year, but yeah, from what I've heard, again, I'm not a financial advisor, they say 3 to 6 months, right? So, but obviously you can get more. But long story short, these are some things to make sure you put in place. So these are some examples of structures that you guys can have and should have in your relationship, right? When it comes to finances, because again, if you don't make a plan for your money, someone else is going to, and you're going to get into a lot of unnecessary arguments. You're going to get into a lot of unnecessary arguments over money, when if we just had a plan of action, that way, if someone comes up, oh my gosh, I really want this thing. I really want that new PS5. It's $1,000 now. Whoa, honey, hold on. Wait a minute now. All right, hold on. We're trying to reach this goal, right? Now, maybe we can look and see if our discretionary funds can handle it, or we can save some of that personal money up to get there or something like that. Or maybe, because I love you, I'll give you some of my money, whatnot. But we got to make sure we're checking the finances to see if we got it like that, because we're not pulling from any of the other places. Okay, because we remember where we're going. See, the financial structure helps so that when these moments come up, we remind them of the goal that we're trying to get to. You don't need that Chanel bag, babe. I'm sorry, I know you want the Chanel bag, but listen, we're almost to our goal. I promise you, once we get there, I will personally buy you a Chanel bag, because that money will be freed up in the budget. All right, cool, great. But that's the beauty of having a structure in place. So I strongly recommend that you have a structure, a financial structure in place in your relationship. This is structure number 2, right? So now let's move on to structure number 3. And this one is going to be about parenting. Very, very important. Very, very important. I mean, they're all very, very important. Don't get me wrong. They're all really, really important. This is really important too, right? So parenting. So the parenting structure. Listen, children thrive with consistency and structure. I cannot stress this enough. I've seen it time and time again. I've seen it with the kids I've worked with. I've seen it with my own children. I've seen it in some of the worst schools where you have a teacher that provides the kids that, if you look at any other classroom with no structure, those kids were going buck wild. I remember when I was substitute teaching in Leon County, and I was substitute at some of the schools. I'm not going to say the names, but I was substitute at some of the schools. And like one of the schools I went to, man, some of these kids were like buck wild. Not for me, not for me, but I saw them in other classrooms where there was no structure. There was none. The kids were going crazy, made a teacher cry, I mean, all this stuff, right? But something I noticed, The teachers that had structure, consistent structure, fair discipline, had strong boundaries, those same kids that were wild somewhere else, man, you would have walked in that class. Those are perfect angels. Perfect angels, right? So, and they love those teachers. Those are their favorite teachers. Doesn't it sound strange that the teachers that were strict, the teachers that didn't play around, those were the teachers that were the favorites? Why? Because you gave the kid structure. It's safe. They know the bounds. And then you treat them with respect and love. And so it's like, yeah, of course. It's the same thing in the home. The exact same thing in the home. There's got to be a parenting structure. People always talk about, you just make it up as you go along. We've been having kids since the beginning of time. You're telling me we can't figure it out yet? Come on now. That's a lazy, I'm gonna be honest. That's a lazy answer. And that's a cop-out and excuse. No, that's a cop-out and excuse. And especially in 2026, ain't no excuse. Ain't no excuse not to have a good, strong parenting structure in our homes. And if you're not going to put it in place, then we shouldn't be having kids. That's, again, another topic for another time. All right. But let's talk about what happens when there is no structure in the home, when you don't have a parenting structure in your home. Let's talk about what happens, right? So, for one, there's mixed messages. Dad's saying one thing, mom's saying another thing. Kids don't know who to believe. They try to follow one thing, then they get in trouble. Then they follow the other thing, then they get in trouble. And they say, Dad said this. Well, so what did I say? And then now they're confused. Now I don't know what to do. Now they start to get dysregulated, right? All right. One parent maybe there, one parent holds the structure, the other parent's all loosey-goosey, and then they're there buying them gifts and buying them food and buying them this and buying them that and just blowing money fast and trying to win their favor and let them do whatever they want. And the other parent's trying so hard to instill structure and discipline, but it keeps getting undercut over and over again. And then that parent is the bad guy. That parent is the heavy. That parent is the one that I don't want to have a relationship with. I don't want to deal with them because they're being painted in that way. They're not the fun parent, right? So, all right. So, and here's another one. Kids learn to divide and conquer, right? It's kind of what I was saying before, somewhat with the mixed messages, but they'll know like, hey, if I know mom is easygoing, I know dad might say no, so I'm going to go talk to mom. And then now mom and dad are fighting because I told them not to do this. Well, I thought it was okay, and why would you think it's okay? They're not doing well in school. Well, but they said, they just really needed it. And now mom and dad are fighting and the kid's like, and they'll keep playing the same game, playing one against the other, right? You had constant disputes about discipline. That's another one, right? How to discipline the children. How do we do it? Do we put them in timeout? Do we beat them? Do we take something away? Do we ground them for a long time? Like, what do we do? Right? What do we do to deal with this situation? I don't know. Sometimes we're going scorched earth, and then sometimes we're letting things go. We're inconsistent. So now the kid's like, well, this is inconsistent. I'm not gonna be honest with you guys. The reason why I say this one is so important is because this one causes major dysfunctions in our children. We're jacking up their nervous system because we jacking them all over the place. And we wonder why their kids are anxious. We wonder why they're avoidant. We wonder why they have behavioral issues. We wonder why they have anxiety and depression and all these things like that. We wonder why, because we keep jacking them around in all these different places and there's no consistency, right? No structure, no system. They don't know what to expect. How's dad going to be when he comes home? How's mom going to be when she comes home? How are they going to be when they wake up? I don't know. Are they going to yell at me, and blow up on me if I make this mistake? Or it messes with their nervous system. That's why I said in the beginning, kids thrive in structure, but they flounder without it. And there's a few other things that take place as well. Without structure, guess what? Now you're going to start having more behavioral issues outside the home and maybe even inside the home. Because now they start getting older. Maybe they start pushing back. Now they start cussing because maybe they saw dad cussing out mom. Maybe that's okay. Or maybe they see, mom, emasculating dad. I mean, they think that's okay. Or maybe the kids get emasculated themselves. They're getting bullied themselves. So they go to school and bully somebody else. Without that structure, we're creating problems, not just in the home, not just in society, but also at schools as well, right? And so there's an increased of mental health issues. I just told you, without structure, without discipline, we're jacking their brains all around. Their young little small brains are trying to understand the world. And when you make it confusing because there's no structure, they're going based off just reactions. And we wonder why there's that book that says the body keeps a score. It's wired into their nervous system, it's wired into their body, the dysfunction. This is because we don't have a system. We don't have a system in place to help them and allow them to thrive. Right? And then one of the last things I have here is that it can affect their grades. Right? Can you imagine? But that's not hard to imagine, right? You have all this dysfunction going on at home. There's no structure. There's no system. Sometimes you're in trouble. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes they hate you. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they love you. Sometimes they don't. A lot of times they ignore you, neglect you. They discount your feelings. And so, yeah, you have that cacophony, that mess. The last thing you're worried about is how can I get an A in this class more often than not. But there are some chances where the kid, and I'm not saying this is healthy, the kid does the opposite. It's like, well, I'm going to overachieve in school because I'm either going to be a people pleaser or that's my way out or just to get away from home. It's not healthy, right? So something to just think about and consider. All right. And so what are some structures, some examples of structures that we need to make sure we put in place in the home, right? So first is we got to make sure we have shared parenting goals, right? Before you even have children, stop and ask yourself the question, why do we even want children? What's the purpose of it? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, kids are not trophies to put on a wall. They're not trophies to put in a room somewhere and let dust collect on them. Like, yeah, I got them. It's not what they are. Children are human beings that when we have them, we are tasked with raising them, with instilling values into them, with teaching them, with loving them, with validating them. And it's a lifelong job, right? Like to continuously pour into them and then be a resource to them when they become adults. It takes work and there should be a purpose and a reason behind it. What is the purpose and reason behind us even having children? It shouldn't be just because I want one. Shouldn't be that. I'm sorry, and it might be offensive to some people, but that's not a good answer. Why are we bringing children into this world that's so difficult and so hard and so rough? Like, why are we doing that? I'm not saying not to. I'm saying know why. Because once you know why, then you can start building your structure and your system for that specific reason. I want to pass on my legacy, and I want to create more good people. And I want to train someone, bring someone under my tutelage and give them all the things that I know I want to pour into them so they can be a good person in this world to make a difference. All right, great. What's the shared parenting structure and goals that we're going to establish to make sure we get there? What values do we want to instill in them? What do you want, the faith do we want to instill in them? What kind of work ethic? How are we going to do this? What's this going to look like? Like, what kind of schools we want them to go to? Like, these are the questions that we need to make sure we're having, or conversation we need to be having when it comes to setting those goals. Because guess what? Once you have the structure in the system and you know those goals, then guess what? Now you can refer back to those as you're completing those objectives along the way. That's what keeps us honest. That's what keeps us safe. That's what keeps us consistent, right? All right. Another example of a structure you could have, as far as parenting is concerned, it's consistent discipline and consistent consequences. What are they? All right. What are the things that you want your kids to do? What are the consequences when they don't do them? And then how are we going to make sure we execute on them consistently? And here's the thing. Don't make a rule you can't enforce. Right? Because you can make all types of great, phenomenal rules and do these chores and do your homework and do this and do that and da-da-da-da-da. You could do all that. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you make a rule and you don't enforce it, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. You're better off not having the rule. Because if you have a rule that you don't enforce, then what ends up happening is your children will stop believing you and start taking you at your word. They will think you are a joke. They will not take you serious. And should they? Should they take you serious? You don't stand behind your word. You don't do the things you say you're going to do. Tell me, oh, yeah, if I have to tell you one more time, man, yeah, go ahead and tell me one more time. for you to do nothing? Mm-mm. Make sure you have a good structure and system in place for rules, for consequences, for discipline, right? Make sure you have that in place and make sure you're consistent with it, and make sure both of you, both parents, make sure that you guys are executing it at all times. It cannot be a one parent job. It cannot be, because the problem is, again, I talked about someone when there's no structure. They have the old saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play. If only one person's upholding it, then it's not really good. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You must be on the same page as far as executing is concerned. It shouldn't be wait till your dad gets home. It shouldn't be that. We should not, as fathers, we should not be labeled as, some type of punishing force that's coming in. Now, I'm not saying we can't have a presence. I'm not saying that, and there may be some, consequences where it's like, okay, dad, you got to handle that. Cool. But we should not be used as some type of threat. Like your dad's going to come, because what you end up doing is you're painting the man, the father, the husband, you're painting him as a threat. So now what kind of relationship are you going to have with your children if they're looking at you as a threat? If every time they see you, it's like, I got to make sure I'm on my best behavior because dad might hit me. How close do you want to get to somebody like that? So that's not how we want to operate. But you don't have to if you have a system in place, right? Household expectations, clear rules and consequences. Talked about all that. Family routines, having that, what does family night look like? Maybe bedtime, routine, morning routine, what do those things look like? Do we have family vacations? Do we have family meetings? Like, what does that look like on a regular basis, right? Those are all structures you could put in place for your family and make sure it's consistent so the kids have that stability they're looking for. I mean, think about it. Don't you want stability in your life as well? Yeah, I know we want some excitement too, but I think it's nice to have that stability and that consistency and things we can count on, right? So give that to your children. Now, some questions you could ask yourself, right? You and your husband, you can ask yourselves these questions, right? One, what values do we want to teach our children? What do we want them to know? What are we going to pour into them? What does that look like? How are we going to do it? Have that conversation, because execution is important. And the thing is, because we have, different lives and jobs and things of that nature, because we have those, the differences, it might look different from family to family. Right? So, you might be able to borrow some things from here and there, but sit down and have that conversation. What do we want to teach our children? And how do we want to go about doing that on a regular basis? Right? Ask yourselves that question. All right. What kind of adults do we want to raise? Right. Think about the end goal. I know there's a lot of people that talk about when you're establishing a goal, start at the end of what you want it to look like and then build your way backwards. All right. So, but ask yourself, what kind of adults do you want your children to be? What kind of values do you want them to have? How do you want them to show up for other people? How do you want them to work, the work ethic? Ask yourself those questions, like what kind of adult do you want your children to be? And now you can put a structure in place to help them get there. All right. How do we discipline, and how do we do it fairly? And that's a big thing too, right? How do we discipline our children? How we do it fairly? I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to change as time goes on. And this might sound strange, but just hear me out. You're going to want to get to a point where you can start having conversations with your children where they can take part in the creation of some of these structures and some of these systems, that they can share with you some of the misgivings that they may have or some of the issues that they may be coming up with. So, for example, let's say you have a chore list for your children, but for some reason they're not getting some of them done, or they're not doing it, or whatever the case may be, right? It would be a wise idea for us to sit down and talk and say, hey, instead of going off the handle and let me beat you and yell at you and cuss you out and call you lazy and back up my day, and instead of doing all that extra stuff, stop. Have a conversation. Hey, these are your chores. This is what we talked about. This is what we agreed to. For some reason, your room's not being cleaned. What's going on? All this stuff is great. You're doing great in the other stuff. You're unpacking the dishwasher. You're washing your clothes. You got your homework done. But for some reason, your room just doesn't happen to be clean. Like, what's going on? Right. So now you get to actually talk with your child and ask them their perspective. This is critical because you also teach them how to communicate as well and how to advocate for themselves too. So it's an added bonus. So you start having that conversation, and then they start saying, you know what, it just seems like it's too much. And I go in there and I get overwhelmed that I don't know what to do. Or, oh, I did clean it, but I was looking for something and I made a mess, and I didn't think about it afterwards. So now you can actually get to the problem solving phase of why these things aren't coming to pass. Because be honest, if you're married and if you have kids, how many times do we actually sit down and ask them, hey, what's keeping you from doing X? What's keeping you from getting these grades? What's keeping you from doing your chores consistently? Or what's keeping you from missing this thing over here? Because you do great in other areas. But what's keeping you from doing that? How many of us honestly ask our children that question? Because I promise you, if you start doing that, you're going to start getting some good answers. You're going to get a higher level of compliance and a better relationship with your kids. Because you know what happens when you do that? You're showing your kids that their thoughts and their feelings matter. You're showing them that what you're said is important. I'm here to validate that. Let's work together so both of us can win. Because I want the room clean, right? You probably want to go outside and play. How can we work together to make sure this gets done? Like, what needs to happen? So as time goes on, and I gotta ask that question as far as like discipline and when setting rules and expectations, yes, that's great, and you have to do that in the beginning. But as time goes on, you want to include your children in that process as time goes on. Now, of course, we're going to be realistic, right? There's going to be things that need to get done. So I'm not saying that, oh yeah, your kid's like, well, I don't want to do any chores, so that's just not going to fly at all. Obviously, no, it's not going to be that. But I promise, if you start doing this really early on, you don't have to worry about that. You're not going to have to worry about that pushback, right? So, all right. And the last question is, what routines do we want our kids to be able to count on? Right. And so, is it going to be Sunday dinners? Is it going to be, Christmas, vacations and holidays? Is it going to be, hey, every night we all pray together? Is it going to be, hey, on the weekends we go for a hike or we go running? Or what kind of routines do you want your kids to count on? What can you and your spouse realistically do on a regular basis that the kids can count on that's going to cultivate your guys' relationship and build a strong family? Right. What is that? What does that look like? And how are you guys going to execute on that? Those are some questions you guys can ask yourselves as you're creating this structure for your children, as far as the parenting structure is concerned. Definitely, 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 please, for the love of everything that's good, holy, righteous, and pure, get yourself a parenting structure. I'm telling you, your kids will love you for it. They will thank you for it. They will appreciate you for it, not just now, but for the rest of their lives. And they will model it in their own families, because they will go and say, our family had these structures, and I want this for my children as well. I want this for my marriage as well. Right? So please set those structures up. So, 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 so important to set those structures up. All right. Now, let's move on. So, relationship check-in structure. And I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on this one because it's pretty self-explanatory. We've talked about it before, right? But you have to have a structure for how you check in and keep the finger on the pulse of your relationship. Again, if you're not keeping your finger on the pulse of your relationship, it's going to get away from you. Problems are going to build up. Resentment's going to build up. These things are going to happen. You guys should be checking in with each other as much as possible. But the Gottmans, I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due, right? They talk about the daily check-ins, right? Now, I don't know if they've coined that or whatnot, but that's where I learned it from. I learned it from them, right? And so the daily check-ins, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, right? When you get home. Now, I know the couples I work with, realistically speaking, not everybody gets up together in the morning. As a matter of fact, majority of my couples, a lot of them, I would say a majority of them, they have different schedules. Someone's either waking up really, really early, or they're coming home late, or something along those lines, right? But as far as like waking up together and, oh, yes, let's take our time in the morning and drink our coffee and stuff like that. Majority of my couples that I work with don't necessarily have that type of setup, right? But you still got to make it work. You still got to find time to check in, right? I mean, we make time for the things that are important to us. True or false? It's true. We all make time for the things that are important. And there is nothing more important than your marriage. Nothing. So if you're not making time for your marriage, that's a problem. That's a big, big, big problem. So, in any case, you got to make sure you're checking in the morning and at night. 10 minutes, real quick. In the morning, how are you doing? Hey, what are your plans for the day? Anything I can do for you? Anything I can take off your plate? Anything I can, any need I can meet? Something like having those discussions in the morning. Then when you get home, it's just kind of the opposite. Like, how was the day? Was it? How are you feeling? How are things going? And here's a beautiful part about this. This is actually, if you struggle with validating, and empathy, these daily debriefs are a phenomenal opportunity for you to practice validation and empathy, because the whole purpose of it is when one person's talking, you're not trying to solve a problem. You're not trying to correct details. This isn't about, and this right, the daily debriefs are not about talking about issues or problems you have with each other. I repeat, they're not about issues you have with each other. It's about what you have going on in your life during that day. What do you have going on in the morning? The plans for the day. And at night, how do those things go? How are you feeling now? How are you experiencing things right now? That's what the daily debriefs are for. So practice. If you struggle with with listening, that's a perfect time to be able to do that, because it's not about you, it's about them. You ask them about them and you allow them to elaborate. You do not make it about you. Then once they're done and they're 5 to 10 minutes, then you swap, right? Now you share about your day and your plans or what happened with you. Like, that's what you do with the daily debrief. Strongly recommend you implement this. And again, if you have alternating schedules or things like that, I always tell my couples, you guys, they're geniuses, right? The issues you have is not a competency issue. It's not. Once we get through the communication part, y'all can solve any problem that comes your way. I mean, that's the goal. The goal is to make all my clients self-sufficient. They don't need me. They don't need any more of my materials. They've got it all ingrained and it's locked into them. And now they have a healthy, loving, thriving relationship. That's the goal, right? So again, daily check-ins, 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes in the evening. Both of you talking for maybe about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, then you swap, right? And again, with the person who's listening, your job is just to listen, to understand, to validate, and to empathize. That's it. It's not about sharing your opinion. It's not about sharing your perspective unless it's your turn. And it's not about any issues between you guys, right? Okay. So now, another structure to put in place, right? Another one to put in place is the weekly check-ins, right? And so with the weekly check-ins, where I have a system that's called the weekly relationship, it's the Rebuild and Renew network. The Rebuild and Renew workbook, right? And it's the weekly relationship reset, right? That's what I call it. The meeting that it's done. This is where you would talk about any issues that came up during the week between you two, right? But again, this is kind of like a subset. Honestly, now I'm thinking about it, it's almost like a subset of the communication structure. But the reason why I want to set it apart, because that is more in general, right? Like if something comes up but this is more like structured in the sense of we have a meeting that we're going to go to, that we have set on the calendar. And that's an important thing as well. You must set this meeting on your calendar and you guys must both attend. Do not put it in a time that can be interrupted, and do not treat it like something that is not important. We can skip it. Nothing wrong, right? Because for this weekly meeting, right? This weekly relationship reset, right? So for this meeting, this is where you can solve any issues or problems before they get big. You can talk about it in a safe, loving, kind environment. Listen appropriately. Again, yielding the floor, empathizing and validating, summarizing, confirming. You could do that in this setting. Take turns resolving any issues you may have so they don't become big. This is a space for you to do that. So don't take that away from each other, please. And some people might think, well, everything's fine, Keith. We're good. We don't have to meet. There's no problems. Listen, the goal is not to, the goal in a relationship is to build something that's beautiful, that's going to last for eternity, right? That's the goal, to create a legacy that lasts for eternity, that moves on. That your great grandkids are gonna be talking about your relationship years and years and years down the line because of the values you instilled, because of the generational wealth you created, right? Because the good, decent human beings that you've created through your lineage, right? So we build, right? We want to get beyond the problem stage. We shouldn't always be having problems. I understand that a lot of us are entrenched in issues and problems and resentment and hurt and pain and not being hurt. I get it. I get it. I get it 100%. But that's where we start. It's not the end. It's not like, oh, we resolved all the past issues and everything is fine. Yeah, everything is fine. We're not fighting anymore, but let's build. Let's talk about what the future holds. Maybe we revisit some of the finances. Maybe we talk about intimacy. Maybe we talk about a vacation. Maybe we talk about visiting the grandkids. Maybe we talk about setting something, like we start talking about building. That's where it gets fun. Guys, relationships aren't supposed to always be hard and hard and hard and hard and hard. It's not supposed to be like fight after fight after fight, sleepless night after sleep. It's not supposed to be that. You put the work in now so you can have more of the fun later. And so, yeah, maybe you guys had struggles before, but guess what? It's fun now. We can talk about building and, maybe trying something new in the bedroom or whatever, Hey, maybe we can do some more with the kids, or, hey, I was thinking about taking up dancing, hey, I would love for you to come and dance with me. Like, we can start having fun, revisiting some of those things. Hey, when's the last time we sat down and play games together? Let's sit down and play video games, or let's play board games, or let's go on a special date. Like, it should be fun. So these weekly check-in meetings are important, because if you keep those meetings, you keep resolving issue after issue after issue, and you start resolving those, and you start learning how to communicate, then guess what starts happening? You start valuing each other and pouring into each other. Guess what starts happening? We don't really have issues or problems anymore. It's possible to get to that point to where things get resolved like that, because now I know how to repair. Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard you. That was a mistake. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to treat you that way. That's what it gets to. So now there are no more hurt feelings. Now I'm not sleeping on the couch and she's sleeping upstairs in the bed. Like there is no more of that anymore. It's just let's build and have fun and enjoy. And, it looks like, yeah, we're like young teenagers, in love and all over each other and kissing. And, well, I don't know. Some people like PDA, or not. I don't know if they like PDA, but do PDA. Some people don't. Whatever the case may be, y'all can be all over each other. Y'all can be, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, all over each other like little kids, excited about love. Like, it's possible to get there. But having the structure in place to get there is really important. It's really, really important. Yeah. So having the structures of the daily check-ins, the weekly relationship reset, right? Having those in. And I have one more here, like a daily gratitude a check-in, right? Where we could actually share things we're grateful for the other person. Yeah, just think of one thing. Just think about every day, one thing never repeating, and just be like, hey, I was thinking about you taking the kids to the dentist. I really appreciate that. That takes a load off. And, I want the kids to have good dental health. And you always take care of that. I appreciate that so, so much. Thank you. You're a huge blessing in my life. Thank you so much. Just finding something to show gratitude and appreciation for in each other. Like, this is going to help. This is really going to help your relationship. It's going to keep your finger on the pulse. It's going to allow you to resolve issues before they become issues in a safe, structured way. And then you get to move on to the fun stuff. Then you get to move on to the growth. Then you get to move on to the future. And I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. All right. So now we got one more structure to implement. Told you guys this one's going to be a little bit longer, right? But we're almost there. Actually, to tell you the truth, a lot further ahead than I thought we were going to be. I thought it was going to go into like an hour and 30 minutes. But I think I'll get us out of here in the next maybe 10 to 15, right? So the last structure that I have for you guys is intimacy. Nothing gets thrown on the back burner of a relationship faster and more often than intimacy. Nothing. Not fun, not date nights, not kids, not self-care, nothing. I mean, intimacy, it's almost like the moment of stress comes up or something comes up or some new life thing comes up, we take intimacy and we just throw it in the bag, just like, get back there, right? Right down in the basement, and it sits there. and it sits there and it sits there. And let me also explain, because people always say, oh man, when you get married, the intimacy dies off and everything like that, and let me explain something to you, or why intimacy is so prevalent maybe in the beginning of a relationship, but then it dies off at the end. Let me share this with you. It's prevalent in the beginning of a relationship because everything's exciting, everything is new. Oh, the hormones are just raging and everything's just exciting. It's a new person, and oh, I'm so in love, and all these things like that, right? But then time goes on, and then problems creep in, and then we don't know how to communicate, and then we don't know how to express ourselves, and then we start moving with contempt and criticism, and slowly but surely, all the excitement is gone, and then now we're just left with a whole lot of life. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to communicate, and so now there's less and less want for intimacy, less and less desire for intimacy. And so before it's all said and done, we're dried up. We went 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, some people a year without ever being intimate. Like dry spell. That's what happens with intimacy. So it's not marriage that kills intimacy at all. It's not marriage. It's we let it die. We don't cultivate it. And then on top of that, all the life stressors, and we don't think it's important. And then we put ourselves on the back burner. I mean, there's so many other things that would just kill a sex drive, right? So having this structure is important. I know some people, and I'll say it, maybe I'm painting with too general over brush, and I apologize if I am. Just give you the heads up, But there are some people, or some women who will say, well, I don't need intimacy. That's not important to me. I don't need it. And it's like, okay, maybe you don't need it, right? But your husband might, or your relationship might, because the when we are intimate with each other, guess what? We have bonding hormones that are released. And if we are not bonding, right? Then guess what? We get more and more and more distant, to the point where, yeah, he's a great guy and she's a great girl, but I'm just not drawn to him. I'm just not attracted to him. I'm just not attracted to her. That's what ends up happening, because we're not prioritizing intimacy like we need to, right? And so without structure, let me show you what it looks like without structure, right? So without structure, intimacy looks like something that people say, oh, it should be passion. If there's no passion, I don't want it, right? I want her to want it as bad as I want it. And if she doesn't want it as bad as I want it, then I don't want it. Well, the chances of both of you being on the exact same wavelength, passion-wise, is, for most people, probably going to be slim to none, to be honest. It's going to be really, really, really difficult to match each other. So if you're waiting for that, you're going to be waiting a long time. I'm not saying it's not going to happen from time to time, but I'm going to keep it a stack. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. That's going to be rare. And mind you, we're talking about, we're not even really cultivating the relationship and appreciation and things like that. We're not even cultivating. We're just talking about passion, pure passion. Like, I want it. My body wants it. You want it. Your body wants it. And we just come together. That's going to be rare. So if you're waiting for that, you're waiting a long time. All right. What else happens without structure? Right. Since we don't prioritize it, right? Since we don't prioritize it, I mean, it just doesn't happen, right? It just doesn't happen at all, right? Why? Because it's not a priority. I'm tired. We got the kids, and then please, side note, right? Side note. For those of you who want to have kids or are pregnant or just had a baby, please do not let the baby sleep in the bed. Do not let your baby or your kids sleep in your bed. Your bed should be off limits. Put them in the bassinet, put them in the crib, put them in the room. Do not put them in your bed. I know what you're going to say, especially if you're a woman. But Keith, I'm exhausted. I am tired. I do not want to get up to feed my baby. It's so much easier if they're right there in the bed. And listen, I get it. I get it. I get it. I have 4 kids of my own. Trust me, I understand where you are coming from. I get it. It's not easy, especially if you had a C-section, which, well, I can't really speak to that because I don't want to get in trouble because I'm not a medical doctor. But I long story short, I get it. But we're talking about intimacy, right? We're talking about a private space for you and your husband. We're talking about a space that's supposed to be sacred. We're talking about a space where kids aren't supposed to be jumping in, right? I mean, y'all been in the bed. You're adults. You know what happens in there, and sometimes the sheets don't get changed, and you want little Johnny and Jill to come jumping and roll around in those sheets. You probably don't, right? It's fine for you and your husband, or you and your wife. That's cool for y'all, but you don't want your kids in that. Kids in the bed kill. I mean, when I say kill intimacy, I'm talking about they hit the Game of Thrones, Ned Stark, chop the head off type kill intimacy. I mean, let's just wipe it out because they shift you from being a husband and a wife to a mother and a father. Now, a mother and a father, they have a different role altogether. So caretakers, your teachers, you're pouring into your kids, your coaches, and then things like that. That's not who created the child in the first place. Those roles are not what created that child in the first place. Those roles also are not designed for intimacy. They're designed for child rearing. Different roles, different responsibilities, different mindset, different everything. That's why sometimes when we're trying to be intimate with our partner or our husband, you might approach your wife, but the fact of the matter is you're actually not approaching your wife. What you're approaching is their mother. And their mother is like, ew, not right now. I have the kids right here, right? And switching between role from husband to wife, or from wife to mother, from wife to mother, that they may not be able to do that on a dime, right? Especially if you haven't been cultivating that connection. Because if you cultivate that connection, a slight touch can switch mom to wife, and she can be like, ooh, if you've been cultivating that connection, then a slight kiss or touch, or look from wife to husband or wife to dad might switch him from dad to husband, like, ooh, right? But I'm telling you right now, if you put kids in your bed and you don't cultivate your relationship and you don't, it's going to devastate your sex life. It's going to devastate it. Another thing, I know we think about beds. And then people are like, oh, man, I want a king-size bed. We want a king-size bed. Let's get a king-size bed. Don't get a king-size bed. Do not get a king-size bed. I'm going to tell you why. If you've ever been in a king-size bed, you understand how big a king-size bed is. They're very big. Why is that a problem? Because they're so big, 2 people can exist in it and never touch. Ever. And I'm not even talking about because they don't like each other. I'm saying because it's so comfortable and you have your stuff on the nightstand and you set your stuff up on the nightstand, your book or your phone or whatever, your glasses, your water, and you go to sleep. And there's this massive space between you and your wife or you and your husband. So guess what happens with all that space? We get comfortable. Guess what else happens? We stop touching one another. We stop cuddling. Stop doing that. Yeah. Or you have to be very, 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 very intentional about it every single time. Why set your intimacy life on difficult when you don't have to? Get a queen size bed. It's a good size. You can stretch out and you'll still be close enough so that I can just touch, roll over. You know, you want to give her a ninja poke in the middle of the night, give her a ninja poke. Like, you know, you want to be the big spoon wife in the middle of the night, be the big spoon. But when you have a queen size bed, it's so much easier for you guys to connect. So if you already have a king size bed, my condolences. But if you haven't bought a bed, if you're getting married and whatnot, you know, yeah, queen size, no bigger than a queen size. No kids in the bed, no kids in the bedroom if possible. I know, right? Again, if you have a newborn, at the very least, you put them in a crib in your room or put them in a bassinet in your room, right? But don't put them in the bed. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. Husbands, if you could support your wife in this in some way, shape, or form, if you could support your wife in this, maybe she pumps her breast milk or something like that, and you could take a turn so that, hey, at night I got the night shift, you know, unless you work or whatever, but y'all work it out. But if you could help her so that you keep the babies out the bed, I'm telling you, if you really want intimacy, that you better make sure you're on and you help her keep the babies out the bed, right? Because I'm telling you right now, when she starts getting comfortable with those babies, and you might be feeling kind of like, man, I really want to, you know, she's cuddled up next to the baby. You know, intimacy ain't gonna happen like that. You know, she's gonna push you away. Not because she doesn't want you, but because you're approaching her again as a mother. You're not approaching her as your wife. But no baby in the bed. She's only going to be your wife in that bed. So just keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind. And also, I'm gonna run down a list real quick because I know there's other forms of intimacy. Right? You know, so there could be date nights, there could be quality time, there could be what are some other things, friendships, and you know, playfulness and things along those lines, right? Affection and, you know, emotional intimacy and having stimulating conversations, mental. They can have all of that, right? All that's great, right? But let's just keep it a stack. Let's keep it a stack. And let me also say, wait, hold on. So all those things are great, right? I don't want to discount those. Keep in mind, though, that these things, do them the right way, with flirting in them, and you know, and connection and priming the pump and things like that. And I'll probably have to do another live stream about priming the pump and what that looks like for intimacy. But you know, but you do it the right way, and it leads to physical intimacy. Because let me also explain this as well. Physical intimacy is the ultimate culmination of all the love that we have for one another. We the two of us become one because we love each other so much. We mesh. We don't know where one starts and where one ends. That's the culmination of it. And unfortunately, we live in a society or in a world that has taken such a beautiful thing and has cheapened it to be just like something you can just do or get anywhere. Not understanding the beauty of it, because it's built off of something. It's built off of that connection. It's built off of all the moments. It's built off the considerations. Built off of the conversations. It's built off all of those things, the validation, the empathy. It's built off of all of that, and it culminates in this. And if you keep cultivating those things on a regular basis, you keep showing up for one another, loving one another, flirting with one another, touching one another, having good conversations, validating, making her feel safe, making him feel desired, then this happens so much more often. So much more often. Because we talk about passion and things like that, right? For one, it's going to cultivate more passion, for one. So that will happen more often. But two, even if you guys aren't at the same level at the same time, because you're cultivating so much over here, even if one person's not in the mood, emotionally, they love you so much. It's like, yeah, you know, I can turn it on. Let's go. You know, I'm ready when you are. Let's go. Hey, let's do it. Oh, you're feeling that? Hey, I'll meet you in the bedroom, or let me get cleaned up, or whatever the case may be, right? That's how much you cultivate that intimacy on a regular basis, and you keep poured into one another on a regular basis, right? So some other things. Some examples of structure for this, and I won't take too long on this, but one of the things is plan nights of intimacy. Plan at least 1 to 2 nights a week. You know, matter of fact, no, not 1 to 2. Plan at least 2 nights a week at the very, very least. least 2 nights a week where intimacy can be guaranteed. Like, we are going to be intimate on these days. Like, that's a guarantee fact, right? And barring some super crazy thing, that happens in that day that prevents you guys from doing it, you need to make sure you lock that in, right? If you wake up that morning, if you know it's Wednesday and Wednesday's intimacy night, then you make sure you don't stress yourself out on Wednesday to the point like, oh man, there was all that stuff. And no, right? Because if you had a job interview on Wednesday, you'd make sure you got enough sleep the night before. Make sure your clothes are on the night before. You would do all that stuff the night before. Make sure you are ready for that job interview on Wednesday. And your intimate life is way more important than a job interview, because that's how you guys connect. That's how you guys bond. You got to take your intimate life serious. You plan out 2 nights, at the very least 2 nights. Maybe it's 1 night for her and 1 night for him. Right? Make sure you guys have that set. That's a structure. It's an example of a structure that you need to have in your relationship. Critical, right? Must have it. And again, like I said before, this is built off the precipice of, maybe, I don't know if precipice is the word. If it is, great. If not, I just misused it. But in any case, it's built on like the connections that you guys are building on a regular basis throughout the day. The connect, again, all that. I'm not going to go over the connection, the love, all that stuff, priming the pump, touches, kisses, all that, speaking each other's love language. It's built off of that so that when that time comes, you're ready to go, right? So that's one thing. Make sure you set that time up, right? A weekly date night. That's something you can get set up. And here's also this thing I have to explain, right? So when I say a weekly date night, it doesn't mean you have to spend money. It does not mean you have to spend money. Because some of us, especially now with the economy and things like that, some of us, making money is a little bit difficult, where money's hard to come by. There are so many creative things we can do as far as setting up a weekly date night. Maybe we play board games. Maybe you stay home and watch a movie. Maybe we just get some ice cream from the store and then we both eat out the bucket. Maybe we I don't know, make some smash burgers. Maybe we just go for a walk. Maybe we go to the park. Like, it doesn't have to cost money. It's about the time. It's about the quality time together. The activity is not as important. We're playing video games together, right? It's about the time together, building something together, coming together, enjoying time together. Date nights are not for discussing problems. Let me repeat that one more time. Date nights are not for discussing problems. The weekly relationship reset, that meeting once a week, that's for problems. Date night is for fun. Date night is for enjoyment. Date night is for connection. Date night hopefully should lead to intimacy. Like, that's what date night is for. Fun. Connection. We have very busy lives, and too often we abandon fun right along with intimacy. We a lot of times we throw them both right next to each other, right? No, pick them back up. Let's get them in the system. We need to have that. So set up a date night, a weekly date night. Again, protect that as well. I mean, and let me also say this. This is so important. So I'm saying, to protect these things, I need you to understand that, man, I've said it before, there's no relationship that's more valuable, more important, that gives a greater rate of return than that of your marriage. None. There's zero relationship. I mean, I want you to think of it like this. As much as the devil has tried to attack marriage, as much as this dysfunctional world tries to discourage marriage, what do we all still do? Don't matter where you're from. We all still want to get together. We all still want to get married. Because we know something instinctively, that marriage gives us something that no other relationship in the world can give us. None. So, with that being said, I'm here to tell you there is no other relationship in the world, period. I don't care how many women you slept with. I don't care how many men you slept with. I don't care, right? I don't care, friends and family and business partners. There's no relationship on the planet, when done right, gives you a higher rate of return than that of a marriage. None. And it multiplies every aspect of your life: physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, social, financial. All of it multiplies it exponentially. when you do it right. And setting up structures in your relationship helps you to do it right. And here's the beauty of structures as well. Again, once you have the structure, you don't have to think about how we have conversations. You don't have to think about how we have difficult conversations. You don't have to think about, when are we going to be intimate? You don't got to think about how we're going to set the money up. You don't got to think about how we're going to do the kids. It's already set up. We just got to show up and just do. That's it. That's it. And we just keep doing the right things over and over and over again. And so you're going to get the right results over and over and over again. So it's important to make sure you guys lock in that time and protect that time, because you're talking about the return of investment. There's nothing like it, period. There's nothing like it. So protect that time with everything you got. Don't let the boys hopping on, hey, we're hopping on COD. So, hey, oh, sorry, babe, date night. And then she doesn't want to set her boundaries. She's like, okay, well, you can play because I love you so much. No, it's date night. I'm sorry. Tell the boys we have to get on later. As a matter of fact, your girl shouldn't have to sell you that. You should say, nah, guys, hey, it's date night, bro. Hey, I'm going to catch up with y'all later, though, man. Hey, y'all get one in from me. Get a dub from me, man. I'm going to catch up with y'all. Got to get with my girl. I'm going to tell you what. You have real friends. You're going to be like, yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, go ahead. They're going to be like, yeah, absolutely, because they're going to know the value of your relationship as well. So it's critical. Date night. Protect that time, right? And so making sure you schedule quality time together. That's another thing as well. Now we might have to be as strict, right? Maybe it's like, hey, at 9 o'clock, once the kids are in bed, we're going to go lay down in the bed. We're going to watch some TV. We're going to sit on the couch, maybe talk for a little bit, maybe rub each other, whatever the case may be, right? Just making sure you guys are getting that time in as well, right? And so, and then, make sure you have intentional conversation. And again, making sure you set these things up, right? We talked about some of these things before. Again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. The long story short, if you really want to build intimacy, if you really want that passion, if you really want to have that more often, you got to be intentional with it. You got to be intentional with it. It's such an oxymoron, right? Because you want spontaneity, and the best way to get spontaneity is to have structure, which is by definition not spontaneous at all. But here's the beautiful thing about structure. So structure doesn't put you in a box. I was talking to my son about this today. Oh, no, I wasn't talking to my son. I was talking to a client about this today. Structure done the right way doesn't put you in a box. Structure gives you the space within the box to operate. So if you're following the structure of intimacy like we just talked about, and you're pouring into each other all the time, then guess what? You might feel a little frisky in the middle of the day. You might want to go get a quickie or something like that, right? Maybe you can swing by the house, on your break and do something, maybe I can't promote anything else that's coming to my mind right now but listen, your sex life, what you guys are all about, right? You know what you're willing to do and how you can get it in, right? And be creative. And you'll be surprised how creative you can get when you're really, really in love and you're really, really connected. That spontaneity can be there and that excitement can be there, right? Some of you guys might be having a regular conversation, and all of a sudden, you might just feel a little something, and then all of a sudden you might go. But that's what structure allows. It allows for that spontaneity and that passion to take place at any point in time within that structure. The structure is like think of it like the soil that's fertile, that grows that passion and grows that spontaneity and grows that. So, and again, I'm telling you, follow that structure. You're gonna see your intimacy in your life increase drastically. Now, last one, guys. Last one. We're not structure. We're done with structures. Those are all the structures, right? Those are all the structures. So, what I want you to do, I'm gonna give you all a challenge, right? I'm gonna give you all a challenge. A couple of questions I want you guys to ask yourselves when it comes to these structures, right? So the first one is, which of the 5 structures do you guys already have, right? Think about your relationship. Think about how you guys plan things out and how you guys do things. Which one of these do you have? Is your communication on point? Is that structure in place? What about your finances? Is that on point? You got a good plan. You got a strategy. You're working that out. Parenting, how's that? Is that looking good? The weekly meetings to check in on the relationship. intimacy. Ask yourself, hey, which one of these is going pretty good, or which one of these, or which of these do we have, right? And maybe we don't have them all like locked in, but we have some semblance of them. Keith, we got some, so we got a little something going on, something we can work with, right? Ask yourself that question. That's the first thing. The second thing is, now of all the 5 structures, be honest with yourselves. Which one for you guys is the weakest? Which one is struggling the most? Which one are you having the hardest time with? Right? Ask yourself that question that you really put effort forth, right? But it's just a struggle, right? Ask yourself that question. All right. And then this last question is, which one that if you started working on would give you the biggest increase, the biggest bonus, make the biggest difference in your relationship if you were to strengthen it this month? Which one would really go a long way to helping your relationship if you really invested in it? You took a month, especially we're coming up to August. Let's say you double down in August. Which one of these 5 structures, if you put them in place and implemented and really went all in, will make the biggest difference in your relationship? And of course, what I'll say is, if you know which one it is, then do it. Focus on that structure. Go back, watch it again, take notes. If you have questions, anything, reach out and let me know, right? If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them to info@fcstherapylasvegas.com, right? And I'll get those and I'll answer them. And again, maybe if I get enough of them, maybe I'll dedicate a live stream to answering questions that you guys send in, right? Or of course, you could always do it in the chat as well if you're, ever watching live, right? So guys, that's it. That's it. So I just want you to remember that healthy relationships are not built on good intentions. They're not. They're not built on just random. They're not built on twin flames. We're meant for each other. Anything. They're not built on that. They're not. They're not built on excitement and passion and sparks and flames. They're not built off that. They're not. They're built on good systems, good, consistent systems. That is how good relationships are built. And if you don't believe me, say, Keith, you're talking nonsense. Keith, it's hogwash. It's hogwash. Then listen, you don't got to believe me. That's fine. You don't have to. I'm right, but you don't have to. But let me ask you this question. Now, I was actually going to appeal to a higher authority, but I'm not going to do that. Let me ask you this question. What would be the harm in your relationship by setting up systems? I'm going to appeal to higher authority or God or anything like that. But I want to just put it back on you. If you're looking at me like, nah, Keith, this is too much. Ask yourself the question, what would be the problem with me having the right way to communicate in my relationship? What would be the problem with me setting my finances in a way where I can be successful? What would be the problem with having a good system for my children so they can be healthy and well-adjusted in this world and know how to deal with this world and deal with their emotions and their thoughts and their feelings? What would be wrong with that? What would be wrong with meeting with the person you love, the person you say you love the most? What would be the problem with meeting with them once a week to make sure that they're okay and they don't have any issues? Or you have a way to share your thoughts or expressing your feelings, or you guys are meeting together to build your relationship. What would be wrong with that? Forget science, forget studies, forget all of that. What would be wrong with making sure you implement the structure for intimacy and you guys are pouring into each other to make sure your needs are met, so you're not looking online on pornography, or you're looking at other people at work, or Johnny, is just so he loves to just listen and you just want to see him every day, or Jane, she's just wearing that short skirt enough but because you're looking at these other people and you're not cultivating. What's wrong with setting structure in your relationship? You got to ask yourself that question. And I know a lot of times we think it should be easy. It should be easy. Relationships shouldn't take any work at all. I should just show up as myself, do no work, and it should just be automatic. Come on, man. Where do we do that in real life? Sir, ma'am, where do we do that in real life? Huh? Do you go to the gym and just all of a sudden it's six-pack abs? Is that what you do? You hop on a football field and you don't do anything, and then all of a sudden the score's 999-0. Come on. Go to work and do nothing, and then all of a sudden you have $1 trillion in your bank account. Like, What are we even talking about or even thinking about? We have to rethink how we look at relationships. And if you think you're going to be in a relationship and do no work, then please don't be in a relationship. I'm going to keep it a stack. If you're in a relationship and you think it takes no work, then please do not be in a relationship. Because you might listen to people that say, yeah, it's effortless, right? What they're explaining, let me explain to you what they're explaining when they say it's effortless. Because I have this model that I teach people. Relationships, they come in like 3 tiers, right? You have your turnkey, right? In terms of houses, right? 3 tiers. You have your turnkey house. You don't got to do nothing to it. It's beautiful. Landscape's beautiful. Inside's beautiful. Everything's nice. Pool in the back. Water is clear. Sun coming in. Got the curtains. Furniture in. It's turnkey. I just show up and it's good. When they say it's effortless, that's 2 people who are healthy, 2 people who know how to communicate, 2 people who know about systems, 2 people who are automatically pouring into one another. That's why it's effortless, because they already did the work. It's not like they're dysfunctional and they come in and then they all of a sudden, no, they already did the work. Those people are turnkey. Those people are not common. Although I wish they were, but they're not. Most of us live in the second tier, the fixer-upper. We got some issues we got to work out. It's nice, it's in a good neighborhood to appreciate, but we got some work to do. And if you and maybe because some people they have just enough where it's just good enough. They're willing to deal with enough of the dysfunction without putting extra effort, extra work. And I used to have an issue with this concept, but now I actually understand it. But the Gottmans talk about having a good enough marriage, right? A good enough marriage. It's not perfect. Doesn't have all the systems in place, but it's good enough. Works for us. We can make it work, right? So is that the ideal thing? Oh, it's not ideal, but it's good enough, right? So you might be a turnkey relationship. And you might be a turnkey relationship where you say, yeah, Keith, I don't want to do all that work, man. Well, we good as it is. We don't really want to get that much closer. It's fine. She nags and complains. It's whatever. I'm good on that, So, and sometimes I, get on her nerves, and it's good. If that's where you are, great. Fortunately, most of us aren't there, right? Most of us are in that second tier where it's not great. It doesn't feel good. You want to sit in the car for 15, 20 minutes before coming inside because you're like, dang, man, I already know what I'm walking into. You don't want to open up and share anything because, man, it's going to be a fight. Yeah. You're walking on eggshells. Your nervous system's shot. You don't feel safe. You don't feel seen. You don't feel heard. And that fixer-upper eventually goes to tier 3. And tier 3, that's condemned. That's where your toxic couples live. That's where the contempt lives and the criticism lives. That's where we're tearing each other apart. That's where we're cheating and getting back together and cheating and getting back together. That's where people pleasers live. There's a lot of dysfunction down there, narcissists and all that stuff. Like that all lives in that third tier, that condemned house that you just need to tear down and just wipe it out. And I'm telling you right now, if you're in a spot in your relationship where we're teetering between tier 2 and tier 3, like, bro, we one fight off from dropping into condemned. We're one fight off. Then I strongly encourage and implore you start putting the things we talked about tonight into practice. Strongly implore you to do that. Because I'm telling you right now, if you don't, you're probably not going to have a relationship. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. And this isn't some sales gimmick. This isn't some, let me, amp you up. You're like, listen, I understand how marketing goes and it gets you all emotional and stuff like that so they can sell you something, right? Do I got stuff in my TikTok store or whatever on the Linktree? Yeah. I got stuff on Amazon? Yeah. If you want to get it, great. If you don't, great. But what I want you to get is this. If you truly care about your relationship, if you truly love your husband, if you truly love your wife, you got to put the effort in. You cannot be lazy in your relationship. You cannot think it's just going to get better just because. I wish to God that people just got better just because as time went on, they just got better, right? Because I would be out of a profession. I have to find something else to do. And I would be okay with that. Why? Because the hurt, the abuse, the trauma, the neglect, all of that when you were younger, you just give it time. Like credit, it's like, yeah, in 7 years, all that stuff gets dropped and you're good. I wish, man, I wish, how many people will be healed? People will be healthy and whole if that was the case. You know how many people would be alive if that was the case? Man. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, a relationship is not going to get better by accident. It's not. It's only going to get better if you put in intentional work. It's only going to get better if you start focusing on what you can do different. It's only going to get better when you start coming together and start putting systems in place so that you can have a healthy, thriving relationship. And if you're ready to do that, if you want to do that, again, use the information I just talked about tonight. Again, this isn't a gimmick. You listen, it's all there. I have stuff all over social media. Listen, it's all there. If you want to do the work, do it. If it's like, I need a little bit more guidance, Keith, I got workbooks you can go through. The Rebuild and Renew. That's the weekly relationship reset workbook that can help you on your weekly meetings, give you a good structure. Also, in that workbook, it actually talks about how to eliminate resentment as well. Right. So that's a good one. If communication is something you're struggling with, you can get the communication work, the Yes Sir communication workbook. Goes through there's exercises, there's practices, there's templates, there's all types of stuff that you could go and get from in there, right? You can absolutely can get that. There's the boundary one, right? That's a great one, just a great auxiliary one to have as well. Because a lot of times we struggle with boundaries in our relationships. So with all that being said, guys, the resources are there. And if you want even more help, if you want someone to help you and guide you through that, I'm here as well. And if you're in Florida, if you're in Las Vegas, please hit me up. My links, to schedule a consultation, it's all over social media, right? You hit the link, schedule a consultation, and we'll lock it in, and we'll meet and we'll talk about the nature of your issues, and we can put some of these things in practice in your relationship. For those of you who are not in those states, I am working on trying to build like a coaching arm where I can build a program and really help just coach you through whatever it is you and your relationship have going on, right? But I don't have anything like that built out yet. But if it is something you guys are interested in, let me know, and I can fast track that. I have all the stuff, set up already. I just gotta, put it all together in a nice, clean, good package for you guys. But if it is something you're interested in, let me know. But in any case, guys, listen. This is almost 2 hours or an hour and 37 minutes. Listen, guys. Listen, your relationship's important. If you do the work, you can save it. If you do the work, you can cultivate it. If you do the work, you can get all the bonuses that come from having a healthy relationship. And you can move from condemned to fixer-upper to turnkey, right? As a matter of fact, actually, scratch that. You can move from condemned, just wipe it all the way out and build something new and fresh. If you learn how to forgive and have compassion, eliminate resentment, and again, I'll get into that in another live stream, you have a brand new relationship. Healthy, strong, loving, powerful. You can have all of that. But again, you got to do the work. And if you want to do the work, I'm here to help you, right? Again, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. But until next time, guys, I want you to have a great, awesome, and blessed night. And as always, never forget, always remember, you are not alone. Y'all take care. Have a great and blessed night. I'll see y'all next time.